All right, so let's talk about some of the other tools that I use before I think about going surf fishing. So one of those, and a main thing I use, is Surfline. And what this allows me to do is take a look at beach cameras, at wave conditions, and things of that nature. But what I really use it for is for the beach cams, because that is really huge. So if you look, like if I go to North America, let's see, U.S., Florida, St. Johns County, it gives me a list of all the cameras and stations that are available to me. So a lot of the ones that I look at the most are A Street. I look at Matanzas Inlet. I look at Crescent Beach if it's up. Those are kind of the main ones I look at. I think St. Augustine Pier actually has a premium one that you can put on. But A Street's kind of where I start because it gives me, a couple of different ideas. It gives me a little bit of an idea of how crowded the beach is. And it also will definitely give me an idea of the waves. Now, let's see, so it's going to play an ad unless you pay for a premium subscription. But what you can do, and this is the reason why I'm not out there today, you can tell it's very windy because this camera's shaking like crazy. And you can tell we got some serious rollers going on out there, right? So if I see this, I used to actually show up at the beach thinking everything was fine. And if I had known these tools were out there, it would have saved me a trip completely. So it gives me some kind of an idea. If I see tons of people, I have an idea that there's quite a few people out there. This thing will actually zoom in and zoom out, so you can see some things. But this is a big tool that I use. Gives you an idea. This is more geared at surfer guys, but it at least gives you kind of an idea of the conditions. And it's going to sit there and talk again. But it also gives a little bit of an idea of what the wave heights are going to be and what the winds are going to do for a couple of days. So I use it some, like I said, yeah, and you can see now that it's zoomed out and panned down the beach a little bit, you can see the wind really whipping coming out of the east. So again, this is not a place that this is not a time that I'm gonna go, but there's, like I said, there's several of them that I choose to look at. One of the other ones that I really look at and like a lot is Magic Seaweed. So Magic Seaweed, again, kind of geared at the surfers, but is great for us as surf fishermen. First thing it's going to do is give you an idea of the wave heights. It's 4 to 7. It's going to give you an idea of what the winds look like. I'm not real trusting of the temperatures. What I do, let's see, nodc.noaa.gov. Let's see, I'll bring that up here in a minute. But I'll look at something else for like surf temperatures. But as you can see right now, this is not going to be good for at least the next 7 days, according to Magic Seaweed. And a lot of this is because we have Tropical Storm Umberto that has decided to make an appearance in the Bahamas and is going to head our way and then pan off to the east, almost right in front of us, just due east of us. It's going to head off to the northeast, which is going to keep quite a bit of a swell in our area. So if you look at it, this gives you a swell and a wind forecast, so you can actually follow what they think Umberto is going to look like. And from what I can gather, it's kind of following the GFS model, because as of yesterday, Monday and Tuesday looked really good. I was targeting them like, hey, those are the days I'm going to go out. But now that the forecast is pushing Umberto off to the northeast, you can see it's still going to be kicking up some surf back our way. I'm kind of hoping this forecast changes. But a couple things I look at here, one is I look at the wind speeds and which direction it's coming from, because that tells me a lot. If the wind's due out of the east or east-northeast, at 20 miles an hour, I'm not really going to be able to cast very far. It's probably going to kick up the surf. It's probably going to dirty the surf. It seems like the southeast winds really dirty the surf up too a lot. Not really sure why, but it seems to do that fairly consistently. So that's one thing I look at. Another thing that I look at is I look at the period. So that's this primary swell, and you can also look at, if there's secondary swells, which I haven't really gotten, really used to looking at. but I'm looking at the period. You know, what I really like when I go out surf fishing, I don't mind if we have 3 to 5 foot waves on the beach. If they're at 10, 11, 12 seconds and I look at the surf cam and they're just nice, big, clean waves rolling in and the water looks clean, those are fine. I don't mind those too bad at all. Plus, you have enough time to dodge them when you get out there trying to cast net mullet this time of year, right? I'm a little bit more tolerant when I'm staying dry and just throwing shrimp or clams or sand fleas or something like that for pompano and whiting. I want clean water, but I don't care as much about the surf heights. When I'm wading out there trying to catch mullet, I really care about the surf heights because I don't want to get smashed, and I've done that before. But I'm looking at, you know, which way the wind's coming, what the period is, and what they think the maximum height of the wave is going to be, you know, which is, you know, these secondary numbers here. So if you look, I mean, we're going to have some 9-foot, you know, peak waves, 9.5-foot peak waves. You know, just not a great time here, right? Just doesn't look good for us right now. So what I'm typically looking for on here, 2 to 4 feet and below on the wave height is kind of what I'm looking for surf fishing. I like 2 to 3 and less when I'm throwing mullet, just because it's easier on me. And I'm also kind of combining that with the pictures out of Surfline, trying to figure out if that water's clean, because I don't mind a higher wave, you know, higher waves if the water's clean. But if the water's dirty, it really doesn't matter. It's probably not going to be good anyway. So I'm trying to combine those two, and I'm just, by experience, I've kind of figured out short wave periods and high wave heights tend to dirty the water, and certain wind directions tend to dirty the water. So those are some of the things I'm looking at, you know, from that perspective, you know, on whether or not I'm going to do a trip. Now, the other thing that I really look at is I I use Tides for Fishing. They have an app on the phone called Nautide, Nautide. So that's a pretty handy little app, but it's the Tides for Fishing thing. And they've got several things on here that I really look at. Let's see. Let me scroll down through here. You know, so I'm kind of looking at the wave heights, you know, comparing them with what I see on the others. I typically don't use it much for this. I use this a lot more when I'm inshore. I do look at the tides and, you know, when I'm going to go. If I'm going on a very low impact beach, a very flat beach like Crescent Beach is, I'm probably going to look to go at low tide, because I don't have to wade out there and make this long cast just to get into, you know, more than knee-deep water. If I'm on a higher impact beach, like what we'll see at the Rock Pile, which is South Guana lot, which is just north of that Exxon station on A1A in South Ponte Vedra, that's a very steep beach. We call it high impact. There, I'm probably looking to fish the high tide more often, because I can make a short cast and know I'm in 3, 4, 5 feet of water. So it just kind of depends on which beach that I'm fishing as to what I like to do. But those are two things that I look at. You know, low impact flat beach, go at low tide, you know, or a couple hours before and after low tide, and high impact beach, you know, I'm looking to go at high tide probably. Now, Surfside at Vilano has been kind of a mix. If the water's way up, it almost acts like a high tide beach. It's probably going to change after Umberto passes by. It's going to beat the beach up quite a bit. But you know, the thing that I don't like is when I have to, you know, wade 60 yards in knee deep or less water just to make a long cast to get it into some deeper water. So it's kind of an in-betweener. I typically have been liking lower tides there. But the last couple of videos I've shot have been at high tide. And the last couple of times I've been have been at high tide, because I can make a cast that would really land right about where the low tide beach was. So there was a nice little dip right there where that first wave is breaking on the beach. You know, I mean, I was hitting like 4 or 5 feet of water right there. So it's kind of nice. But anyway, I do look at those things. I'm not sure I believe these high activity and very high activities and things like that. I don't know. I haven't really found they mean a lot, but it's one of those things. The tidal coefficients, I don't pay attention to those when I'm surf fishing. I do pay attention to them greatly when I'm kayak fishing, because if they're 120, I'm going to have a hard time paddling against the current in a kayak, especially if the wind's against me. If I have wind and current against me, there's a couple places I go where I paddle west, and if I have a wind out of the east and I'm going to be fighting a falling tide, coming back in, which means the tide and the wind are against me, it's going to be a long, hard paddle. And so I do look at the tidal coefficients, or I may go somewhere like, somewhere down around Bing's Landing or south, because the tides don't seem to affect, because it's halfway between Matanzas and Ponce Inlets. So anyway, I don't really look at that surf fishing, but I do kind of pay attention to it. It's just really the coefficient between high and low tide. They're trying to give you an idea how much the current's really going to pull. So do look at some of those things. Trying to think. I mean, this is just a great site, and I just try to kind of make note, of some of the good days that I have. The other thing that I will check as well is, okay, one of the other ones that I really check a lot is the NOAA website for ocean temperatures. So it's nodc.noaa.gov, and then it's /dsdt/cwtg/index.html. And I was struggling to find it, but I did surf temperatures, and about the fourth or fifth one down, it had this one, right? So it took me here, but I really didn't want the map. I really want the chart. So I can just hit the coastal water temperature guide. And then if I'm looking at the table of the Atlantic coast in the south, this is what I'm looking for. This one actually stays up on my tablet all the time, so I can check things. So like, a lot of times what I look for here is St. Augustine Beach will actually run cooler a lot in the summer, because we'll have an upwelling where the cooler temperatures from below the thermocline pop up and end up on top, and basically the water inverts. And so a lot of times you'll see St. Augustine Beach will be running like 77, 78, and Fernandina, Mayport, and Daytona are all in the 80s, like well up into the 80s. But what I'm kind of looking at here is the temperature up and down the coast to see like where the gradients are, and this is actually really important when you're looking for pompano as well, because St. Augustine Beach might be 58, Daytona might be 70. So a lot better chance of finding pompano in Daytona or down that way than you're going to find up here, because they like that 68 to 72 degree water. So I'm really kind of looking at this just to see where the surf temperatures are at. This is something I keep up, like I said, on my tablet at all times, so that when I want to go on a trip, I have them. But yeah, so these are some tricks I use. Surfline, get the surf cameras. Magic Seaweed to give me an idea of what I'm going to be seeing on Surfline, or what I'm going to be seeing when I'm out there, and which days I should target. The tides for fishing to know how the tides are going. I think this is probably the best of the tide sites. And then the surf temperatures. Those are the big ones that I check before I go make a trip and load everything up and head over to the beach. So hopefully this helps you, and helps you read some of this stuff as well. And it'll take experience. I mean, I'm sure I still have a whole lot to learn about this, and there's probably going to be somebody watching this that are going to point out things that I've missed. And please do that. That's the whole reason why I'm doing this, is to educate. Okay? Thanks a lot for watching.